The day had started like any other in the high-rise office building where the millionaire ran her empire. The sunlight glinted off the glass windows, reflecting the city below. The office was immaculate, every desk polished, every chair perfectly aligned. Staff bustled quietly, checking emails, making calls, and preparing for the morning meeting with potential investors. Everything seemed normal, but that calm would soon be disrupted in a way no one expected. The young girl entered the building with a quiet confidence. She was dressed simply but neatly, her clothes clean and modest. She walked with purpose, holding a small leather folder under her arm. People in the lobby glanced at her curiously. Some whispered, wondering what a teenage girl could be doing in a place like this. She ignored them and kept moving toward the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. When the elevator doors opened, she stepped out into the sleek, modern office space. The staff paused briefly, unsure how to react. The girl had scheduled a meeting, and they had seen her name on the schedule, but nothing prepared them for the presence she carried. There was a calm assurance in the way she moved, a quiet strength that made people take notice without fully understanding why in the conference room. The millionaire sat at the head of a long polished table, reviewing papers and emails. She was known for her sharp mind and her ability to read people quickly. Today, she was meeting with potential investors who were evaluating new opportunities, but she could feel something unusual in the air. The staff had told her a young girl would be attending, but she could not imagine the significance. The girl entered the room and spoke clearly and politely. "Good morning. My name is Isabel," she said, her voice steady. "I am here on behalf of my family. I would like to discuss our involvement and shares in your company." The millionaire raised an eyebrow. She leaned back in her chair, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I'm sorry," she said, "but you are. How old again?" The girl smiled gently, unfazed by the tone. 17, ma'am. And I am the heiress to my family's holdings. I have been authorized to speak on their behalf." The millionaire laughed, a sharp, incredulous sound that echoed slightly in the room. 17? She repeated. "Are you serious? You expect me to believe that someone your age is an heiress with real stakes in a major company?" The girl's expression did not change. She remained calm and composed. "Yes, ma'am. I have the necessary documents to confirm this. I am aware it may seem unusual, but I assure you, I am authorized to participate in these discussions." Some of the board members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of doubt and curiosity. A few whispered under their breaths. "This has to be a joke," one said quietly. Another shook his head. "No way a teenager has control of anything real." The millionaire leaned forward, her hands folded on the table. "Well, let's see these documents then," she said, her tone still skeptical. "If you are truly who you claim to be, you will have proof. Otherwise, we'll just consider this a distraction." Isabel reached into her leather folder and carefully pulled out the documents. Bank statements, share certificates, family trust agreements, and identification papers were neatly organized. She handed them to the millionaire, explaining each piece calmly and clearly. "This first document shows the shares my family holds in your company. The next is a confirmation from the family office, verifying my authority to act on their behalf. Finally, here are the relevant legal papers confirming my identity and relation to the family holdings." The room fell silent. The staff and board members studied the documents carefully. They were authentic, detailed, and verified. Isabel had come prepared, and her preparation left no room for doubt, though. Many still struggled to accept the reality. The millionaire's face shifted from amusement to confusion. She fumbled slightly, picking up the papers and rereading them. These are real?" she asked, her voice quieter now, less sure of itself. "Yes, ma'am," Isabel replied politely. "All of these documents have been verified by the family office. I am authorized to represent my family in all matters regarding their shares in your company." The room was filled with a strange tension. Board members leaned forward, examining the papers. The millionaire's laughter had disappeared entirely. She felt a cold sense of disbelief settling over her. For someone who prided herself on knowing people quickly, being proven wrong so completely was jarring. A junior associate spoke up. "Ma'am, it seems she is legitimate. I've double-checked the trust documents, and they match the official records we have on file." The millionaire went pale. Her hands trembled slightly as she set the papers down. I don't understand," she said, her voice almost a whisper. How could someone so young have access to all of this?" Isabel remained calm. "I understand that it may be unusual," she said gently, "but my family has prepared me for this responsibility. I have been involved in discussions, educated on matters of finance and governance, and authorized to act fully on their behalf." The millionaire took a deep breath, trying to regain composure. She had been the one in control in every room she entered, and now that control felt suddenly shaky. The girl's confidence, preparation, and poise had left her unsure of herself. She had expected a naive teenager, perhaps someone who would be flustered or overwhelmed. Instead, she faced someone fully prepared and articulate. Board members, once skeptical, now watched Isabel with quiet admiration. Even those who had been mocking her moments ago could see the intelligence, the calm, and the capability in her demeanor. She spoke with knowledge that reflected her family's experience, yet she carried it with humility rather than arrogance. The millionaire swallowed hard. "Very well," she said finally, her voice steadier but still tinged with disbelief. "If what you say is true, then I owe you an apology for doubting you." Isabel nodded graciously. "Thank you, ma'am. I understand why there might have been doubt. It is unusual for someone my age to take part in these discussions." The room felt different now. What had started as skepticism and even amusement had shifted to respect and cautious attention. The board members, who had once whispered about a possible joke, were now silent, listening intently to Isabel's insights about the company's operations and her family's vision. She spoke calmly, explaining her perspective on the company's future, potential investments, and long-term goals. Her words were concise, clear, and thoughtful. There was no pretense, no attempt to impress beyond the facts. It was clear she understood the responsibility she carried. The millionaire, still pale, could only listen. She had expected to dominate the meeting, to challenge the girl with questions and doubts, and to assert her authority. Instead, she found herself absorbing insights, realizing that this young teenager had knowledge and preparation that surpassed many adults in the room. One board member leaned toward another. "I underestimated her," he whispered. "Completely. She knows what she's talking about." Another nodded. "And she stays calm under pressure." "That's rare." Isabel continued, answering questions thoughtfully, referencing documents and showing a deep understanding of financial strategy. She did not boast, she did not argue, and she did not demand recognition. She simply presented the facts, backed by proof, and let her preparation speak for itself. By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere had transformed. The millionaire, once mocking, now regarded Isabel with genuine respect. The board members who had doubted her now looked impressed, realizing that her youth and appearance had led them to underestimate her. The meeting concluded with a sense of accomplishment and newfound respect. Isabel had not only proven her identity as an heiress, but had also demonstrated the intelligence, poise, and preparation that her position required. She had turned doubt into recognition and skepticism into admiration. As the board members and the millionaire filed out of the room, the millionaire paused and extended her hand. "I apologize again for my initial doubt," she said. "You have proven yourself beyond expectation. I look forward to seeing what you and your family will achieve with the company. Isabel shook her hand, smiling politely. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the opportunity to show that I am prepared. When she left the office, staff members whispered among themselves about what they had just witnessed. A young girl had entered the room, confident yet modest, and completely changed the tone of a meeting with her knowledge, preparation, and integrity. Outside, Isabel stepped into the sunlight, the folder still in her hand. She felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense that her efforts and responsibility had been acknowledged. But more than that, she understood something important. Respect is earned through preparation, poise, and honesty. And sometimes, those who doubt the most are the ones who learn the greatest lesson. It had been a day that started with doubt and mockery but ended in validation and respect. And Isabel, the young heiress, had faced it all with quiet strength, leaving a lasting impression on everyone in that room. The lesson was clear. Appearances can be deceiving, but preparation, knowledge, and integrity always speak louder than words. And sometimes, the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who need to see your truth the most. The morning after her first meeting at the office, Isabel woke feeling a mixture of nerves and determination. She had faced doubt, mockery, and skepticism the day before, but she had proven herself. Now, she knew that the real work was just beginning. It was one thing to show she was legitimate. It was another to show she could contribute meaningfully to a room full of adults who had years of experience in business. Her mother noticed a serious look on her face as she had breakfast. "You're quiet today," she said gently. "Thinking about the meeting again?" Isabel nodded. "Yes, Mom, it went well, but now I have to make sure I really show them I belong. Being legitimate is one thing. Being respected is another." Her mother smiled softly, proud of the poise her daughter had shown. "You have always had a good head on your shoulders. Just remember to stay true to yourself. People respect honesty more than flash or bravado." After school, Isabel returned to the office. The staff greeted her with cautious curiosity. Some smiled politely, remembering the day before. Others still looked skeptical, unsure what to expect. She walked confidently through the lobby, holding her folder neatly, knowing that preparation and composure were her strongest allies. She was led into the same conference room where she had faced doubt. This time, the mood was different. The board members had begun to whisper among themselves about the young heiress who had turned heads the day before. There was a sense of anticipation rather than skepticism. The millionaire entered the room, her expression unreadable. At first, Isabel thought she might still carry some doubt, but the woman surprised her. She nodded politely, no mockery in her tone. "Good morning, Isabel," she said. "We're ready to hear more from you today." Isabel smiled slightly. "Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for giving me this opportunity." The meeting began with the usual formalities, but it quickly became clear that the board wanted to test her knowledge. Questions about financial strategies, market trends, and company priorities came fast. Isabel answered each one calmly and accurately, referencing documents she had studied the night before. Her confidence was quiet but firm, and her understanding of the company's operations impressed even the most skeptical board members. One board member leaned toward another. "I didn't think she'd know any of this," he whispered. "She's thorough. She's prepared." Another nodded. "And she stays calm." "That's impressive." Most adults would stumble under this pressure. The millionaire watched Isabel carefully. She had thought she could easily challenge the girl, to expose a lack of knowledge or experience. Instead, she found herself listening and learning. Isabel spoke clearly, demonstrating insight into areas the board had overlooked and suggesting small but strategic improvements that could benefit the company. "Your insights are impressive," the millionaire admitted, her tone grudging but honest. I underestimated you yesterday. Isabel shook her head politely. I understand why there was doubt. It's unusual for someone my age to be involved. I only hope that my preparation shows I can contribute meaningfully. Throughout the meeting, Isabel's demeanor remained composed. She did not brag about her family's wealth or power. She simply presented facts, asked thoughtful questions, and offered insights based on her research and understanding. Her quiet confidence began to shift the energy in the room. Board members, who had previously whispered doubts, now leaned forward, listening intently. At one point, the millionaire asked a pointed question about a potential business risk. Isabel paused, considering her response carefully. Then she explained her reasoning clearly, referencing market data, potential outcomes, and alternative strategies. The board members nodded in agreement. Some took notes. Others exchanged impressed glances. For the first time, the millionaire felt a moment of humility. She had assumed this teenager would be inexperienced, naive, or flustered. Instead, Isabel demonstrated poise, intelligence, and a depth of understanding that surpassed many adults in the room. The millionaire's earlier laughter and disbelief felt distant and foolish. In light of the girl's performance, after the intense part of the meeting ended, the board shifted to discussing future opportunities. Isabel suggested a few initiatives that could improve efficiency and strengthen relationships with key partners. Her ideas were practical, realistic, and well thought out. There was no exaggeration, no attempt to impress. Her contributions came from preparation, understanding, and genuine insight. By the end of the morning, the atmosphere in the room had transformed completely. Where skepticism and mockery had dominated before, now there was respect and attentiveness. Board members spoke to her politely, seeking her opinion and acknowledging her insights. Even the millionaire, who had once mocked her, now addressed her with a professional respect that was hard-earned. Isabel, the millionaire said finally, you've shown that age and appearance are not measures of capability. I look forward to seeing how your contributions continue to shape the company. Isabel smiled gently. Thank you, ma'am. I will do my best to contribute meaningfully. As the meeting concluded, Isabel felt a quiet satisfaction. She had faced doubt, mockery, and high expectations, and she had met them all. Her preparation, knowledge, and calm composure had turned disbelief into respect. On the way out, board members who had doubted her the previous day offered small words of encouragement. Well done, one said quietly. Another smiled and nodded. Isabel accepted their recognition with humility, knowing that true respect is earned, not demanded. Back in the lobby, staff members whispered about the meeting. Some admitted they had been wrong to doubt her. Others spoke of her intelligence and composure. Isabel ignored the murmurs, focusing instead on the lessons she had learned. She realized that preparation, honesty, and humility are more powerful than arrogance or wealth when it comes to earning respect. Later, as she walked home, Isabel reflected on the morning. She understood now that proving herself was not about proving she was an heiress. It was about showing that she could handle responsibility, make informed decisions, and maintain integrity under scrutiny. That was what truly mattered. Her mother was waiting when she arrived. How did it go? She asked, seeing the confidence in her daughter's step. It went well, Isabel said simply. They listened, they respected me, and they took my ideas seriously. It feels different, but good. Her mother smiled, tears of pride in her eyes. I'm so proud of you, she said softly. You've shown everyone that being young doesn't mean being inexperienced, and being humble doesn't mean being powerless. Isabel nodded, feeling a sense of quiet determination. She knew that the road ahead would not always be easy. There would be more doubts, more challenges, and perhaps more skepticism. But she also knew that with preparation, composure, and integrity, she could navigate any situation. That night, Isabel reviewed her notes from the meeting and thought about the feedback she had received. She reflected on the importance of preparation, not just for proving herself, but for being effective and making a meaningful contribution. She realized that respect is built through consistent action, careful thought, and the courage to stand firm even when others doubt you. As she prepared for the next day, Isabel felt a sense of purpose growing inside her. She understood that her role was not simply to hold her family's title or to prove her legitimacy. Her role was to use her position responsibly, to contribute thoughtfully, and to inspire respect through competence and humility. The next morning, she returned to the office with renewed determination. The board was eager to hear more from her. The millionaire, now fully aware of the girl's capability, watched closely. Isabel had become more than a curiosity. She was now a valued participant in discussions, and her insights were beginning to influence decisions. Throughout the day, she answered questions, shared ideas, and offered perspectives that even experienced board members found enlightening. She remained calm, polite, and confident, never seeking to dominate the conversation, but always contributing meaningfully. By the end of the day, the atmosphere in the office had changed. The room that had once been filled with doubt, skepticism, and even mockery now carried an air of respect and attentiveness. Isabel's presence, quiet but powerful, had transformed perceptions. As she left the office, the millionaire approached her privately. "You've taught me an important lesson," she said quietly. "I underestimated you, and I was wrong. Thank you for proving me wrong, not with arrogance, but with competence and grace." Isabel smiled politely. "Thank you, ma'am. I hope to continue contributing and learning." Walking home that evening, Isabel felt a sense of quiet triumph. She had faced doubt, skepticism, and mockery, and she had turned it all into respect and recognition. She understood now that true influence comes not from wealth, age, or appearance, but from preparation, integrity, and the courage to act confidently and thoughtfully in any situation. That day marked a turning point. Isabel was no longer just the girl who claimed to be an heiress. She was someone who had proven her capability, earned respect, and shown that true confidence comes from knowledge, humility, and action. And as the city lights began to glow, Isabel knew that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would have challenges, but she was ready to meet them with the same calm intelligence and poise that had already turned doubt into admiration. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the high-rise office, painting long golden lines across the polished floor. Isabel stepped into the lobby, holding her leather folder tightly, her mind focused and steady. She had faced doubt, mockery, and skepticism before, but today was different. Today, she was no longer just a girl claiming to be an heiress. She was someone who had proven herself, someone whose voice now carried weight in the room she entered. The staff greeted her with subtle nods, some smiling quietly as they remembered the scene from the previous day. Isabel returned their gestures with a polite smile but remained focused. She knew that respect earned yesterday could be maintained or lost, depending on how she conducted herself today. Preparation and composure had brought her this far, but now she needed consistency and poise. In the conference room, the millionaire and board members waited, papers spread across the table. Unlike before, there was no hint of mockery or doubt in their eyes. There was curiosity, certainly, and a cautious respect that Isabel recognized immediately. The room seemed calmer, yet there was an undercurrent of anticipation. Everyone wanted to see how the young heiress would continue to handle the weight of the discussion. "Good morning, Isabel," the millionaire said, her tone professional, respectful. "We're ready to hear more from you today." "Good morning, ma'am," Isabel replied, her voice steady. "Thank you for this opportunity." The meeting began with a series of questions about the company's ongoing projects. Isabel had prepared for hours the night before, reviewing past reports, financial statements, and strategic plans. She spoke confidently, referencing facts and figures accurately, answering questions in detail. When asked about a possible new investment strategy, she calmly presented pros and cons, explaining potential outcomes and risks in language clear enough for everyone to understand. Board members leaned forward, taking notes, nodding, and whispering quietly to one another. They were impressed by her insight. Some had doubted her knowledge, thinking she was too young, too inexperienced, or too naive to understand complex business matters. Now, they were re-evaluating everything they thought they knew. The millionaire watched Isabel closely, realizing that her previous skepticism had been completely misplaced. She had expected hesitation, nervousness, and perhaps mistakes. Instead, she saw a young woman who handled herself with the confidence of someone much older, someone who had been educated and prepared for every eventuality. "Your analysis is thorough," the millionaire admitted, her tone subdued but sincere. "I can see now that my doubts were unfounded. You are well informed, and your perspective adds real value." Isabel nodded politely. "Thank you, ma'am. I have studied the company and its history carefully. I wanted to ensure that any input I provide is accurate and meaningful." Questions continued, becoming more detailed and strategic. Isabel answered each one thoughtfully, showing that she not only understood the company's past and present, but could also think critically about its future. She suggested improvements in workflow, communication between departments, and even ideas for employee engagement. Her proposals were practical, realistic, and grounded in evidence. The board members who had whispered doubts yesterday now exchanged glances filled with respect. "I didn't think she'd understand half of this," one whispered. "But she's on point with every question. She has the mindset of a seasoned professional," another replied. "And she stays calm under pressure. That's something we rarely see, even in older executives." For the millionaire, the experience was humbling. She had walked into the meeting prepared to mock or dismiss Isabel, yet she found herself learning from the girl's observations. Every recommendation, every answer, carried the weight of someone who understood both responsibility and nuance. The millionaire realized that true intelligence and capability were not defined by age, appearance, or prior expectations. Isabel remained composed throughout, never boasting or demanding acknowledgement. She spoke with clarity, patience, and humility. She understood that this was not just about proving herself, but also about showing respect to those around her. A calm demeanor and thoughtful approach gradually shifted the room's energy. Where there had been doubt, there was now attentive listening. Where there had been skepticism, there was now consideration and quiet admiration. Midway through the meeting, the discussion turned to potential company risks. The millionaire asked a pointed question about a recent market trend that had caused concern among investors. Isabel paused, considering her response carefully. She explained the situation in detail, outlined potential strategies, and even suggested a few innovative solutions that had not yet been considered. The room was silent as board members absorbed her explanation. Even the most experienced executives were impressed by the clarity and depth of her analysis. Isabel's voice remained calm, steady, and confident. She didn't raise it unnecessarily, and she didn't speak faster to show her knowledge. She simply delivered the facts and ideas with quiet authority. The meeting progressed into discussions about the company's future projects. Isabel suggested a new initiative to improve efficiency in one of the company's smaller branches, outlining cost savings and potential benefits. She referenced historical data, provided comparisons with industry standards, and offered measurable ways to track progress. The board listened closely, many taking notes. Isabel's recommendations were concise, actionable, and backed by solid reasoning. They could see that she had not only studied the company, but had also developed critical thinking skills that allowed her to propose solutions that were practical and innovative. When the meeting concluded, there was a sense of accomplishment in the room. Isabel had not only defended her position as an heiress, but had also earned genuine respect for her intelligence and insight. The board members, who had doubted her moments ago, now looked at her with quiet admiration. The millionaire, once dismissive and mocking, finally spoke privately with Isabel. "I underestimated you," she admitted. "I thought this would be a simple formality, and I was ready to laugh. But you have shown that age and appearance are irrelevant to capability. I am impressed by your preparation, your poise, and your understanding. You've earned respect today." "Thank you, ma'am," Isabel replied softly. "I am glad to have had the chance to contribute." The experience was a turning point. Isabel realized that the key to being taken seriously was not force or arrogance, but preparation, integrity, and humility. She had faced skepticism, bias, and doubt, yet she had responded with calm professionalism. She had not allowed anyone's disbelief to shake her confidence, and she had let her knowledge speak for itself. Walking out of the office later that afternoon, Isabel reflected on the events. She had gone from being a girl dismissed because of her age to someone who commanded attention and respect. She knew that challenges would continue, that some people might still doubt her. But she also knew that she now had proof that preparation and composure could overcome almost anything. As she stepped into the bright sunlight outside the building, she noticed how ordinary the street seemed. Yet, she carried herself differently now. Every interaction, every decision, and every conversation mattered. She understood the responsibility that came with her family's position, and she felt ready to handle it. Her mother was waiting outside, a proud smile on her face. "How did it go today?" she asked. "It went well," Isabel said, her voice steady. "They listened, they respected me, and they took my ideas seriously. I feel like I am finally being seen for who I really am, not just for my age or appearance." Her mother squeezed her hand. "You've shown everyone that confidence, preparation, and integrity matter more than anything else. I am so proud of you." The day ended with Isabel reviewing her notes from the meeting, preparing for the next challenges she would face. She knew that her role as an heiress was not just about holding a title or wealth. It was about contributing meaningfully, earning respect through action, and demonstrating that competence and humility could change perceptions. That evening, she reflected on the lesson she had learned. Appearances can be misleading, and skepticism is common. But true respect comes from knowledge, poise, and the courage to act with integrity. She understood now that the people who doubt the most often learn the greatest lesson. And she was determined to continue showing that with every opportunity she was given. The next day promised more meetings, more challenges, and more opportunities to prove herself further. But Isabel felt ready. She had learned that even in a room full of experienced adults, a young girl with preparation, composure, and humility could command attention, earn respect, and make a real difference. And as the city lights twinkled that evening, Isabel walked home quietly, holding her folder, her head held high. She knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test her intelligence, patience, and courage, but she also knew she was ready for it. She had already turned skepticism into respect, and that was a power that could never be taken away.